Let's get more on this. I want to welcome in Julianne Smith, the former US ambassador to NATO. Julianne, thank you very much for joining us, coming on the show. Let me get your reaction to what not only we've been hearing from President Trump, just in the last, in fact, 2 hours, calling for countries to help out, to help come forward to secure the Strait of Hormuz. And normally we see this we hear this pleas before, right? Before starting a war, not after. And so far, not many are running to his aid. I want to bring a graphic up just to show our viewers some of the comments we've been hearing mentioned MERS just a moment ago. Germany, it's not NATO's war. Italy's not part of the conflict. The UK say will not be drawn into wider war. Australia, we won't be sending a ship to the Strait of Hormuz. What do you make of this pressure or threat coming from the US president, Julianne?
Well, I think it hasn't gone over particularly well with our closest allies in Europe. They have been frustrated that they were not brought in at the beginning of this war. There weren't any consultations with our closest allies in Europe, and they've essentially been watching it on live TV unfold and reading about it in the newspapers. So now the United States is putting out this call for assistance to open up the strait, and it really puts Europe in a difficult position. On the one hand, they're frustrated that they've been left out in the cold for this entire operation, and they still don't fundamentally understand what the U.S. objectives are. They've heard different versions in recent weeks. On the other hand, while they are frustrated with the United States over not only how this war has been handled, but say how the Greenland incident was handled some months ago, they're also recognizing that they need the strait to be open. And so for them, it's a dilemma. Do they help the United States get that strait open because it really affects their bottom line and their economies in many ways more than the U.S. economy? Or do they stand their ground and refuse to help the United States right now? And I don't think we've heard the final verdict from all the leaders in Europe and in the Indo-Pacific, and we'll know more in the days ahead.
Yeah, I suppose it depends how long this drags on for, what the calculus is from the United States and also from Iran. We did hear the president also in the last 2 hours or so, Julianne, basically say that the level of enthusiasm coming from these countries, coming from NATO allies he was referring to, matters to me, which to me sounds like he's expecting them to be lining up, right? So talk us through the risk for these NATO allies as they weigh this up, as you were just outlining there for us.
Well, it's tough. A lot of them have contentious relationships with the U.S. president. They've been arguing over tariffs over the last year. They've had the incident where the U.S. was talking about taking Greenland. We've argued over assistance to Ukraine and whether or not the U.S. would provide any security assistance. And of course, that's not happening anymore. But they don't want to make a bad situation that much worse. And so they're really trying to calculate, again, their interest in getting their economies humming along, getting the strait open so it will have positive developments for the global economy with their, I think, legitimate grievances against the U.S. administration in the way in which they've been treated. A lot of the European leaders will tell you that they don't feel like they've been treated like a close ally, that they're not being brought in at the top, that they've been accused of civilizational decline has been one of the accusations. So they're in a bit of a tough spot. And I think what you're going to see is kind of a mixed reaction. There will be a couple of European countries and perhaps a few in the Indo-Pacific that might lend a hand. And I think there will be plenty that will take a pass.
Yeah, and it does, like you said, Julianne, put them in a very difficult situation because while they don't approve of the war against Iran or, the way it was handled, the pressure, as we have seen, is growing not just on oil prices, but gas prices, fertilizer prices. And Europe, more than the United States, is likely to feel the squeeze here since, of course, we've detached ourselves from Russia's oil. So it puts them in a crunch, of course. But let me just ask you, when Kaja Kallas, the EU's foreign policy chief, said the Strait is out of NATO's area of action, what does that mean? From a logistical point of view, could NATO go in and help out?
Well, this isn't really a NATO mission. NATO
Yeah.
is focused primarily on the Euro-Atlantic area. So I have no expectation that the NATO alliance is going to have some proper mission here. I would be surprised if we moved in that direction because you would need all 32 members of the alliance to agree to it. I do believe you could have a small coalition of countries coming together, but I don't think it'll be either the European Union or the NATO alliance. And I think some countries also question what the president said about this being relatively simple and easy.
Yeah.
Most European leaders are of the mind that this could be a long-standing commitment and could require long-term engagement from Europe.
Yeah, indeed. And I think we've got a clip from President Trump because he says we really want their help. At the same time, he says we don't need anybody's help. I think we've got that clip. If we have it, can we play it?
We don't need anybody. We're the strongest nation in the world. We have the strongest military by far in the world. We don't need them. But it's interesting. I'm almost doing it in some cases, not because we need them, but because I want to find out how they react. Because I've been saying for years that if we ever did need them, they won't be there. Not all of them.
So we hear this, Julianne, and then we hear in the interview for the Financial Times, he says if there's no response or if it's a negative response, I think will be very bad for the future of NATO. And like you said, alienating allies on tariffs on Greenland. And to me, that sounds pretty ominous, this line in the FT. How do you interpret it?
It sounds to me like a test, and I think the Europeans want to know the truth. Does the United States need the assistance of its partners and allies around the world to open the Strait, or is this just kind of a test where the president can gauge any individual country's commitment to this partnership? But I think a lot of European allies would answer back, does the U.S. really believe in this partnership at all? The president has belittled the NATO alliance. He has talked about how these allies don't have anything to offer. And I think the mixed messaging actually doesn't help our case here. I think what needs to happen is behind closed doors, the president needs to have an honest conversation with our closest partners and allies and lay out the goals, the objectives, and what the United States is asking for. It can't be a test of loyalty. That's not what the Europeans are up for right now. This is a serious matter, and it requires immediate consultations. I know many of them are coming to Washington soon, and I think that will be a good time for them to sit around the table and really flesh this out and not have some sort of hypothetical loyalty test that really doesn't get us anywhere closer to opening the Strait.
Such great analysis. Great to have you on the show, Julianne. Julianne Smith joining us there from Washington, D.C. Appreciate it.